fourth under, or maybe the third week?
Might have been the third.
Might have been the third, yeah.
They've been doing some reflections and
Right.
And we had some other mini lessons kind of put in. So,
Right.
Yeah.
But in conversations with your mentor teacher Chris and with me, you decided you would focus on building up students' capacity to do a reader's theater performance of some aspect of chapter 4, was it? And students were doing different parts of that chapter.
Right. Actually, it was 1 through 4.
Oh,
so
1 through,
they were given
could,
sections of 1 through 4.
So they could, they could choose.
Well, we assigned them.
We assigned them, right?
That's
right. So you assigned different groups, different sections.
Right.
Did you assign a specific section that they were going to do?
Yes. We said this is, we had teams of 4, and this is, you either got a chapter or part of a chapter. It might be half a chapter, so that people would have different pieces to do.
Right. So they knew the pages that they were going to develop.
The pages.
Right. About the Reader's Theater, but it was up to them to put together the Reader's Theater itself.
Right.
Yeah. Good. Well, that's an ambitious project, as you know. And so what we'd like to use the interview for is what did you think went well in this project? What do you think the students were able to learn this way that they might not have learned simply by reading and answering questions on those first 4 chapters? And then what might you do differently if you were to do it a second time?
Right. Okay, well, on the text itself, this was a really good exercise because it required them to do a reading of the chapter that they were assigned. Because some students read and some don't. So if you hadn't read or you didn't remember what you'd read, you had to go back into the text because you needed to learn about your character that you were going to be playing.
Right.
So just to get to know what they looked like, what they acted like, the things that we had talked about characters being, the way it's developed is by what they say, what they do, and how they behave. So that's what we wanted them to do, is to go back into the text and find out what this character was like. And we had a character, a paper, a graphic organizer that they could kind of help guide them through that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so that was the class that I was observing.
And then we also wanted them to really begin to develop some of their group work skills. It's hard to work with a group. Everyone has those challenges. So we had a graphic organizer for them to every day pick some skill that they were going to work on as part of doing good collaborative work, and then do some reflection on that skill afterwards. So was it to be asking questions? Was it to listen better? What was that? And they would identify that goal for the day and then reflect on how they did.
Right. So looking at that segment as a whole, what do you think was particularly effective about what you did?
I think what was really effective for the group workers when they had to come up with norms, and I had them put their norms at the header of their document. The students who did that and kept it, I think it was a constant reminder about how we're going to work together. The other effective part was, doing the reading so you could develop your character, really getting a sense of that character. And then writing the script, so you know who's going to say what, when, and where. I think having a script was really good, and then having them, speaking the part, acting the part, being engaged with the other characters really gave a better understanding of what was happening in the story. To put that together, and then to perhaps observe other people doing that too, right? So it's both as a participant and an observer.
Right. Did each of your Reader's Theater performances include a narrator, or was that up to the students?
It was up to the students. So definitely in the book, Cassie is the narrator and the character.
Right.
So they had to think that through. Right. And some of them, and also because they were memorizing the lines, what was great about that is you couldn't dump everything on the narrator because that was too many lines to remember, right? That wasn't fair. So just spread that out. And then they worked on Google Docs, and it worked well for some groups to do that collaborative writing. They were supposed to write their part. They were supposed to put in their stage directions, put all that in. And some students were better at participating than others. So the best groups, everyone contributed to the writing, and it kind of showed in their performance too, because they had a better sense of their lines, and there was more cohesiveness.
Right. Yes, I remember you were kind enough to send me your reflections on at least 3 of the days that you were doing. I remember that you were writing about that. And then if we could turn to some of the things that you would do differently, were you to do the same learning segment again?
Yeah, there'd be several things. I think that I would come up with a simpler tool to use for the assessment and coming up with what I'm going to do to help with group work. I think it was too complicated for them. I think the idea was fine, but it just was hard for them to grasp, especially because it was the first time they were doing it. So,
right.
you know,
right.
there's that learning curve
right.
of that.
And they were doing that in addition to working on
Right. And I thought in my mind, it's like, this will help you do the other.
Right.
But because it wasn't internalized yet, it was seen as kind of a separate thing.
Right.
And I think that's true with the character sketch too. The idea was filling out that graphic organizers to help you get that information that was going to help you inform, you know, your interpretation of the character and how you're going to do that.
Right.
But you know, some students got very obsessed with filling in a lot and working on that, and really didn't see the connection between that and what they were doing. It was just lost. It just didn't transfer over. So I would look for better ways to transfer.
Yes.
Although on one hand, I'm thinking, well, it was good because you got a close reading of the book. So if that's what I'm after, great. If I'm after an authentic performance of the character, not so much. Right. So it just depends on what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So good for close reading. Less good for as a stepping stone to the preparation for the reader's theater performance. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. I thought I was observing that class, of course, when students were filling out their character. Their understanding of their different characters, and I thought these are 7th graders. They're going to see that as a separate task.
Right. It definitely things are categorized. So I learned that things are categorized. What's the connection? There's just because we just did that, and even if she said it was a connection, doesn't mean there is one.
One thing I found really useful, Jeanette, when I was starting to teach myself is. If I could really focus on the students that did the best, or in this case the class that did the best, and you had mentioned, I think it's E period, the one that's at the very end of the day on Friday. So I was amazing to me. I've seen that class a couple times now on Friday, and so I was amazing that they're still with it. But I guess the rotating schedule helps on that. For them, it's a new time of day. It's not like it's the end of the day yet again after 4 days in sequence. So for them, it's a new theater, and I think it was. I think they probably benefited from the slightly longer preparation time. Sure. And just the sense of sort of getting together during
lunch or recess or whatever,
Exactly. So, but regardless of all those factors that might have contributed, what can you say about the success of the E-class that you wrote to me about, that you might be able to say, okay, I'm going to figure out how to make that happen
for more students, to be more successful. So I think that having more time to prepare would have been helpful, and so maybe what I would do is not have them memorize the script. Frankly, I had reservations about that from the beginning, but I was game to go. And those who did memorize, kudos for you. But if you had written the script and you had that script there with you, then I think you could have gotten more into the character because you wouldn't have been so stressed about. I memorized it. I've got to spit it out. So I think that would help a lot more students.
Memory,
I think it would have helped a lot more students for this kind of activity. That's what my
it's interesting with, as I said, with the 9th grade class where we're doing the same thing based on your experience with Cannery. We're doing it with Cannery Row, and we're not having the students memorize the scripts. We're having them have the scripts and read them with expression.
Which is truly readers' theater, right? And that's what. So anyway, live and learn, right? And for some kids who could shine. Wonderful, right?
And as I mentioned to you in my email response to your question, I have seen Chris's students do excellent jobs with memorized lines. So I know that they can do it, but I think maybe just the time period that you
the amount of time, and then when you memorize for yourself, it's different than memorizing as part of a group, because memorizing for your group, you have to be thinking about when do I start speaking, when do I finish, what are the other characters doing. There's a lot more going on.
Yes, that's true, and I was seeing individual presentations. Very good point. I wasn't seeing it integrated.
And on the other hand, they all almost all at one rejected their voices. So it was definitely they're used to speaking in front of groups. They got their game on and they did that. So
that's been a big area of growth from the beginning of the year to now. Actually, that I've noticed. Well, we'll conclude our interview now, and thank you very much for giving these very insightful contributions. And if you could check for me to make sure that I have that it did stop.
It did stop.
Okay.
No, it didn't. It's doing.